This is a screencast covering Ansible and using it to control Windows host. I'm making this to show my experience and how I've done things so far with my environment, and in hopes of helping other people learn from my mistakes and how some of this stuff works. So currently I'm in my Ansible directory. If we look at the files in here, got several files, a config file, and some YAML files. I haven't really touched the Ansible config file for my Windows host, but I have created a file in group vars for some of those variables. So if we check out that directory, I have a copy of my YAML file that has some variables specifically for the Windows desktops in my environment. So if we look at that file, we'll see that we have a user and a password for Ansible. And so this Ansible user is specific to my environment. We're looking to look at the WinRM port, specifically the HTTPS port, which is 5986. We need to ignore cert validation. We're going to be transporting over Kerberos, and that we also have Kerberos delegation set to yes. What this will do is allow us to get resources available on the network that a regular user might not be able to access. So the YAML file we're going to be looking at today is the CAD Lab YAML. And so the only host that this YAML file affects, this playbook, is the CAD Lab in my environment. So right now it's set to not gather any facts, and that's only because I was testing some things beforehand. And then it's got 4 roles: Autodesk to install AutoCAD, install browsers, install Microsoft Office, and Blender. The browsers and Blender are installed through Chocolatey, and Autodesk and Office are installed from a share on the network. So I'm going to go through those and show you how those are done. So we change to our roles directory. And so first we can look at is Autodesk. And open up our main YAML file. And we'll see the name, the path. So this is the path on the network. You don't have to put like quadruple quotes in the beginning or double quotes for Windows paths. Ansible automatically know what to do with them. So these arguments are passed through to ensure proper installation. Product ID can either be a GUID like this. I found that this, specifically for Autodesk, is what was needed to correctly install the app. Some things will have a different return code, so it might install successfully but not return 0, and if you get a different error code, then Ansible might error out, and so those are things to look out for. These product IDs can be hard to find before installation, so generally what I've done is installed the app on test host, looked in the registry to find the proper ID code, and then tested it in my Ansible playbook. So now if we look at the browsers role, this is using Chocolatey. Now beforehand I actually removed these so that Ansible would have something to do when I test run this during the screencast. So we're going to change the states from absent to present. So I need to exit out and then sudo in. If we look at the Office, it'll be similar to the Autodesk and how it works. And so we just have the name, the path, and then the product ID. Again, we're going to change this to present. And Blender. Same thing, chocolatey, used to install that. So before I run this roll, I'm going to enter tmux so I can show you something else while this is running. So over here is my Windows host, remote desktop into. It's got AutoCAD, as you can see right here. But it doesn't have Office in it. So we run our playbook, and we're going to limit this to just one host instead of trying to do the entire group. So we should see that Autodesk immediately completes because it's already installed. And then the browser installs should happen as well. So while this is running, I'm currently working on some automation with VMware, and this is a little bit more complicated in terms of deploying hosts. So we look at this Linux deploy playbook, and we're setting some custom facts. This would be the IP address and the host name that we want for this Linux host to be deployed, and then here's our variables that we're passing into our role, which is create Linux. And then here we're creating a DNS record for that VM, and we're using this Windows shell module, which will pass in a PowerShell command and create that DNS record. So right now we're at the Office install part of the playbook, and so if we go here to our Windows host and open Task Manager, we should see Windows installer process and start to see some disk transfer from the network. Office does take a bit. It can take up to 10 minutes to install. So to kind of go more in depth on the VMware role, here's our task file, and all these are variables that are passed to this file, and a separate file in the vars directory. And so if we want to change any of these, we can pass them through that playbook where we saw those variables before, and those variables in that playbook will override any variables set in the role. And so here we can see that it's really underway in terms of disk writes. And so soon we should start seeing Office files or programs start to populate, and where we just finished. And so Ansible should be completing the Office installed any second now. So it's looking like the installer is cleaning out. It should be done any moment. So Office installed. Blender was already okay, and we see that a few things changed and all good.